The moment you feel this, something is about to change. You didn't click on this by accident. Something pulled you here, something you can't fully explain. Maybe it feels like a quiet whisper in the back of your mind, or a deep knowing in your chest that refuses to be ignored. There's a shift happening around you, subtle but undeniable, the kind of shift that doesn't just change your circumstances, it changes you. And what's coming into your life is not random. It's not ordinary. It's not temporary. It's a connection, a meaningful one, and it's about to challenge everything you thought you understood about yourself. Because this isn't just about meeting someone. This is about recognition. The one who feels different. You've always felt it, haven't you? That quiet sense that you don't fully belong in the same patterns as everyone else. You see deeper, you feel more, you question things others accept without thinking. And because of that, life hasn't been easy. You've had to walk paths alone. You've outgrown people. You've stayed silent when you had so much to say because you knew they wouldn't understand. But that difference, that discomfort, that isolation, it was never a flaw. It was preparation. The hidden weight you carry. Being chosen doesn't mean being favored in an easy way. It means being entrusted with something heavier. It means going through things you didn't deserve, just to become someone you never imagined you could be. You've been misunderstood, judged, sometimes even rejected for simply being who you are. And at times you questioned yourself. You wondered if maybe you should shrink just to fit in. But deep down, something inside you refused to let that happen. That resistance inside you, that's not rebellion. That's alignment. SIGNS, you were never meant to follow the crowd. You don't chase validation, you crave truth. You don't feel fulfilled by shallow conversations. You search for meaning in everything. You notice patterns others miss. You sense intentions without words being spoken. And sometimes it feels overwhelming. Like you're carrying awareness in a world that prefers distraction. But these are not coincidences. These are signs. You were never designed to blend in. You were designed to awaken. Why the world tries to silence you. Not everyone is ready for depth. Not everyone is comfortable with truth. So when someone like you appears, someone who sees beyond the surface, it creates discomfort. And people react to discomfort in predictable ways. They dismiss, they mock, they distance themselves. Not because you're wrong, but because your presence exposes what they're not ready to face. And slowly, you learn to stay quiet. But silence was never your final destination. The moment everything begins to shift. There comes a point in every awakened journey where things start to change. Not all at once, not loudly, but clearly. You begin to feel a pull, a sense that something or someone is getting closer. You can't explain it logically, but you feel it emotionally, spiritually. It's like your life is preparing space for something new. And that feeling, it's real. Because something is entering your life. A connection that matches your depth. A connection that doesn't require you to shrink. The connection that sees you. This isn't about perfection. This isn't about fantasy. This is about recognition. For the first time, you meet someone who doesn't misunderstand your silence. Someone who doesn't feel threatened by your awareness. Someone who sees you without needing you to explain yourself. And it feels unfamiliar at first, almost uncomfortable. Because you're not used to being understood. But that's how you know it's real. Real connection confuse you. You've experienced confusion before, mixed signals, unclear intentions. But this is different. There's clarity, even in the silence. There's respect, even in disagreement. There's depth without effort. And slowly, you begin to realize. This connection isn't here to distract you. It's here to elevate you. Why this connection arrives now. Timing matters. If this had come earlier, you wouldn't have been ready. You would have misunderstood it, or worse, lost it. But now, after everything you've been through, you see differently, you choose differently. And that's why it's entering your life now. Not as a test, but as a reflection of your growth. The fear of losing yourself again. Even when something is right, fear can still appear. Because your past taught you to be careful, to guard your energy, to protect your peace. And that fear isn't weakness, it's memory. But this time, you're not the same person you were before. You don't abandon yourself anymore. You don't ignore your intuition anymore. And that changes everything. This connection won't complete you. Let's be clear about something. This person is not here to complete you. You were never incomplete. They are here to reflect what's already within you. To challenge you, to support you, to walk beside you, not ahead of you. And that distinction matters. Because true connection doesn't create dependency. It creates alignment. When you stop forcing things flow, you've spent enough time forcing things that weren't meant for you. Trying to make connections work that drained you. Trying to be understood by people who never truly listened. But this doesn't require force. It flows naturally, calmly, clearly. And for the first time, you don't feel like you're chasing something. You feel like you've met it. The role of patience in this journey. Not everything reveals itself immediately. Even meaningful connections take time to unfold. Layers are revealed slowly, trust is built step by step. And patience becomes your strength. Because you're no longer rushing outcomes. You're allowing truth to reveal itself. The lesson you were meant to learn. Every challenge you faced before this had a purpose. Every disappointment, every ending, every moment of loneliness. It all shaped you. It all prepared you to recognize what's real when it finally arrived. And now that it's here, you see the difference. Clearly, you are not here by accident. If you've made it this far, understand something deeply. This message is not random. Your awareness is not random. And this connection entering your life is not random. But it also doesn't remove your responsibility. You still have to choose growth. You still have to stay grounded. You still have to protect your values. Because that's what sustains what is real. Embrace what is coming. Don't run from it, don't overthink it. Feel it, observe it, respect it. Let it unfold without trying to control every outcome. Because the more you align with truth, the more everything that is meant for you aligns with you. And this connection, it's part of that alignment. Now it's your turn. If this message spoke to something deep inside you, don't ignore it. Engage with it. Like this video if you felt the truth in these words. Comment below and share what resonated with you, because your voice matters here. And if you're ready to continue this journey of awakening, subscribe to Return to Awakening. Because this is only the beginning. The moment you start noticing the difference, something begins to stand out, not loudly but consistently. The way they speak to you feels different, not forced, not calculated, just real. There's no need to decode hidden meanings, no anxiety about where you stand. And that alone feels unfamiliar, almost unreal at first. Because you've been conditioned to expect confusion. But this connection doesn't thrive on confusion, it thrives on clarity. When energy speaks louder than words, you start to realize something powerful. It's not just what they say, it's what you feel when you're around them. A sense of calm replaces the usual tension. Your mind isn't racing, your spirit isn't questioning everything. There's a quiet steadiness, a grounded presence. And that's how you know this is not surface level. This is something deeper, something aligned. You don't have to pretend anymore. For so long, you had to adjust yourself. Tone it down, hold back, think twice before expressing what you truly felt. But now something shifts. You find yourself speaking more freely. Not because you're trying to impress, but because you finally feel safe to be real. And that freedom, that authenticity, that's where true connection begins. The reflection you can't ignore. This connection doesn't just comfort you, it reveals you. It mirrors your strengths, but also your blind spots. It gently exposes the parts of you that still need healing. Not in a way that breaks you, but in a way that strengthens you. Because real connections don't just validate you. They elevate you. And sometimes, elevation requires truth. The test of emotional maturity. Not every moment will feel perfect. There will be times of misunderstanding, moments where perspectives don't align. But this is where the difference becomes clear. Instead of walking away, there's effort. Instead of ego, there's understanding. Instead of silence, there's communication. And this is where growth happens, not in perfection but in presence. You begin to trust again. Trust doesn't return all at once. It rebuilds slowly, quietly, piece by piece. Through consistency, through honesty, through actions that match words. And before you realize it, you're no longer expecting disappointment. You're no longer preparing for things to fall apart. You're allowing yourself to believe again. And that alone is a powerful transformation. The shift from loneliness to connection. You've spent so much time feeling alone, even in crowded spaces. Feeling unseen, unheard, misunderstood. But now that emptiness begins to fade. Not because someone is filling a void, but because someone is meeting you where you are. And that changes everything. Because true connection doesn't remove your solitude. It transforms it into peace. You start seeing yourself differently. The way someone treats you eventually shapes how you see yourself. And when you're finally treated with respect, with understanding, with presence, you begin to realize something important. You were never too much. You were never too deep. You were never the problem. You were just surrounded by the wrong energy. And now that's changing. The power of being understood. There is a rare kind of peace in being understood without having to over-explain. Where silence isn't awkward, it's comfortable. Where your thoughts are received, not dismissed. Where your depth is appreciated, not avoided. And once you experience that, you can never go back to anything less. Because you felt what real alignment feels like. The connection that CHLNGS, your old BLIFS. This experience may challenge everything you once believed about relationships. All the patterns you thought were normal begin to dissolve. All the expectations built from past pain start to fade. And you begin to see that not everything is meant to hurt. Not everything is meant to confuse. Some things are meant to grow you in peace. The importance of staying grounded. Even in something meaningful, it's important not to lose yourself. To stay connected to your purpose. To stay aware of your values. To continue growing as an individual, not just as part of a connection. Because the strength of this bond depends on the strength of who you are within it. And you've worked too hard on yourself to forget that now. The balance between heart and awareness. It's easy to get caught up in emotion. But your awareness is what protects your peace. You don't ignore red flags anymore. You don't silence your intuition anymore. You don't abandon your truth anymore. And that balance between feeling and knowing, that's what keeps this connection healthy. The reason this feels different. It feels different because it is different, because it's not built on illusion. It's not driven by need. It's not rooted in fear of being alone. It's built on presence, on understanding, on mutual respect. And that foundation is rare. But it's also real. The moment you realize you deserve this, there comes a quiet realization. You stop questioning why this is happening. You stop wondering if it's too good to be true. And instead, you accept it. Not from a place of ego, but from a place of worth. You understand that everything you endured led you here. And this is not luck. This is alignment, the continuation of your awakening. This connection is not the end of your journey. It's a continuation, a new chapter that deepens your awareness, not distracts from it. It pushes you to grow further, to understand more, to evolve deeper. Because awakening is not a destination. It's a process. And this is part of that process. The truth you can no longer ignore. You feel it clearly now. Something meaningful is entering your life. Not to save you, not to complete you, but to walk with you as you continue becoming who you were meant to be. And the more you embrace that truth, the more everything begins to align around you, the part of you that still doubts. Even now, a small voice inside you questions it. It asks if this is real, or just another illusion waiting to fade. Because you've been here before, you felt hope and watched it fall apart. So your mind tries to protect you. It tells you to stay guarded, to not get too close. But this time something feels different, not louder, just steadier. And that steadiness is what your fear doesn't understand yet. The difference between intuition and fear. You've learned to listen within, but sometimes fear disguises itself as intuition. Fear is loud, it rushes, it assumes the worst before anything even happens. But intuition, it's calm, clear, grounded. And when you sit with this connection, you don't feel chaos. You feel awareness, you feel presence. That's how you begin to tell the difference. And that's how you avoid sabotaging something real. The old version of you would have run. There was a time when this kind of connection would have overwhelmed you. You would have questioned it until it broke. You would have pushed it away before it had the chance to stay. Not because you didn't want it, but because you didn't believe it would last. But you're not that version of yourself anymore. You've grown, you've healed, you've become more aware. And now you're capable of holding something real without destroying it. The importance of emotional discipline. Feelings are powerful, but they need direction. You don't let temporary emotions dictate permanent decisions anymore. You pause, you reflect, you respond with intention. And that discipline changes everything. Because now you're not reacting from wounds. You're responding from awareness. And that's what protects meaningful connections from unnecessary damage. The way this connection reveals your strength. It's easy to think strength comes from being alone, from not needing anyone, from staying distant. But real strength, it's being open without losing your center. It's allowing connection without losing your identity. And this situation is showing you that you're capable of that balance, that you can be both strong and connected. The silent moments that mean everything. Not every meaningful moment needs words. Sometimes it's the silence that speaks the loudest. The comfortable pauses, the unspoken understanding. The feeling of being present without needing to perform. And those moments, they're rare. Because they don't come from surface-level interaction. They come from genuine alignment. The realization that you're not alone anymore. For so long, your journey felt like something you had to carry by yourself. Your thoughts, your growth, your awareness, all of it felt isolating. But now, There's someone who understands parts of you that others never could. And that realization hits differently, because it doesn't just change how you feel about them. It changes how you feel about your entire journey. It reminds you, you were never truly alone. The connection that drain you. You're used to connections that require effort just to survive, where you had to give more than you received, where you felt exhausted instead of fulfilled. But this, it doesn't drain you. It adds to you. It brings clarity instead of confusion, peace instead of pressure. And that difference is something you can't ignore anymore. The way you handle conflict now. Conflict used to feel like the beginning of the end, a sign that something was about to fall apart. But now you see it differently, as an opportunity to understand, to grow, to communicate. You don't shut down, you don't run. You stay present, you stay aware. And that shift alone changes the outcome completely. The trust you're building with yourself. This isn't just about trusting someone else. It's about trusting yourself again. Trusting your judgment, your awareness, your ability to choose wisely. Because in the past, you doubted your own decisions. But now, you're more aligned with who you are. And that alignment gives you confidence. Not in perfection, but in your ability to navigate whatever comes. The growth that comes from being seen. When someone truly sees you, it forces you to see yourself more clearly. You can't hide behind old versions of who you used to be. You can't pretend to be less just to stay comfortable. You're challenged to step into your truth, to grow into the person you've been becoming all along. And that kind of growth, it's uncomfortable but necessary. The moment you stop looking for signs, at some point, you stop searching for confirmation. You stop analyzing every detail. You stop asking if this is real, because you feel it. And that feeling is enough. Not because it's perfect, but because it's honest. And honesty is something your soul recognizes immediately. The shift from control to trust. You don't need to control every outcome anymore. You don't need to predict what will happen next. You allow things to unfold naturally. And that trust doesn't come from blind faith. It comes from experience, from growth, from awareness. You've learned that what is real doesn't need to be forced. And what is meant to stay will remain through truth. The quiet confidence building within you. Something inside you is becoming stronger. Not louder, not aggressive, just steady. A quiet confidence that doesn't need validation. A sense of self that isn't shaken easily. And this connection is reinforcing that. Not creating it, but reflecting it. Showing you what you've already become, the moment you stop chasing and start attracting. There was a time when you chased everything. People, validation, understanding. You tried to prove your worth, hoping someone would finally see you. But now something has shifted. You're no longer chasing connection. You're embodying it. And because of that, what aligns with you is finding you. The way this connection feels effortless. Effort is still there, but it's not exhausting. It's not one-sided, it's not forced. There's a natural rhythm between you. A balance that doesn't need constant fixing. And that ease, that flow. It's something you once thought didn't exist. But now you're experiencing it in real time. The inner peace you can't explain. You notice it in small moments. The way your mind feels quieter. The way your heart doesn't feel heavy all the time. The way you're no longer overthinking every interaction. And that peace, it's unfamiliar at first. Because you've been used to chaos. But this is what alignment feels like. The shift in your standards. You're no longer impressed by surface-level things. Words without action don't move you anymore. Inconsistency no longer confuses you, it repels you. Because now you know your worth. Not in a loud way, but in a grounded, unshakable way. And that standard, it protects everything you're building. The way you respond, not react. Situations that once triggered you don't have the same power anymore. You take a step back, you observe, you choose your response. And that space between feeling and action, that's where your growth lives. Because now you're not controlled by emotion. You're guided by awareness. And that changes every outcome. The connection that honors your boundaries. You don't have to explain your boundaries over and over again. They're respected naturally. Your space is understood. Your time is valued. And for the first time, you don't feel guilty for protecting your peace. You don't feel like you have to sacrifice yourself to keep someone close. Because this connection doesn't require that. It respects who you are. The feeling of being met halfway. You're not the only one putting in effort anymore. You're not the only one trying to understand. There's mutual energy, mutual intention, mutual respect. And that balance, it feels different. Because it's not something you're used to. But it's something you've always deserved. The realization that you've evolved. Looking back, you can see it clearly now. The old patterns, the old choices, the old version of you. And you realize you've outgrown all of it. Not out of pride, but out of awareness. You've evolved into someone who no longer accepts less than what aligns. And that evolution is what brought this connection into your life. The energy you no longer entertain. You can feel it instantly now. What aligns and what doesn't. What's genuine and what's forced. And because of that, you no longer entertain confusion. You no longer tolerate inconsistency. You walk away from anything that disrupts your peace. Not out of fear, but out of clarity. The strength in your silence. You don't feel the need to explain yourself to everyone anymore. You don't argue to be understood. You don't prove your truth to those who refuse to see it. Your silence has become a form of strength. A quiet confidence that speaks louder than words ever could. And the right connection. It understands that silence without questioning it. The way this connection grounds you. Instead of pulling you into chaos, it centers you. Instead of making you question everything, it gives you clarity. Instead of draining your energy, it restores it. And that grounding effect, it allows you to grow even deeper into who you are. Because you're not constantly trying to survive the connection. You're actually experiencing it. The moment you stop, expecting the worst. You notice it slowly. You're not waiting for things to fall apart anymore. You're not preparing for disappointment. You're present. Fully present in what is, instead of fearing what could go wrong. And that presence, it allows you to experience something real without the weight of your past. The trust that builds without force. No pressure, no ultimatums, no constant need for reassurance. Trust builds naturally. Through consistency, through honesty, through time. And that kind of trust, it doesn't feel fragile. It feels stable. Like something that isn't easily broken. Because it's built on truth, not illusion. The way you start aligning with your purpose. This connection doesn't distract you from your path. It aligns with it. It supports your growth, encourages your vision, and reminds you of who you're becoming, not who you used to be. Because the right connection doesn't take you away from your purpose. It walks with you toward it. The realization that this is just the beginning. As powerful as this feels, you sense something deeper. Something still unfolding. Because meaningful connections don't reveal everything at once. They evolve, they expand, they grow over time. And you're just at the beginning of that journey. A journey that will challenge you, but also transform you in ways you can't fully see yet. The way your heart starts to open again. You didn't even realize it at first. How guarded you had become, how closed off you were without saying it out loud. But now, something inside you is softening. Not in a weak way, but in a real way. You're allowing yourself to feel again. Not recklessly, but consciously. And that opening is where everything begins to deepen. The difference between attachment and connection. You've confused the two before. Attachment felt intense, urgent, overwhelming. It made you lose yourself trying to hold onto someone. But this feels steady. There's no desperation, no fear of losing control. Because connection, real connection, doesn't make you cling, it allows you to stand. The way this connection, respects your pace. There's no rushing here. No pressure to move faster than you're ready for. Everything unfolds naturally, step by step. And that patience, it matters more than you realize. Because it shows intention, it shows awareness. It shows that this isn't about temporary excitement. It's about something deeper, something lasting. The part of you that is learning to receive. You've always been the one who gives. Your time, your energy, your understanding. But receiving, that's been harder for you. Because you're not used to it. But now you're learning. Learning that it's okay to be supported. That it's okay to be valued without earning it through struggle. The way this connection, exposes your triggers. Growth doesn't disappear just because something feels right. In fact, it intensifies. Because now, your deeper layers begin to surface. Old fears, old wounds, old patterns. Not to break the connection, but to heal within it. And this time, you don't run from those moments. You face them with awareness. The strength in staying present during uncertainty. Not everything will always be clear. There will be moments where you don't have all the answers. Moments where you feel uncertain. But instead of letting that uncertainty control you, you stay present. You trust what you feel without rushing to conclusions. And that presence, it keeps you grounded in reality, not fear. The way you're no longer seeking perfection. You don't expect everything to be flawless anymore. You understand that real connection includes imperfection. Moments of miscommunication, moments of learning. But instead of seeing those moments as threats, you see them as opportunities. Opportunities to grow, to understand, to strengthen what is real. And that shift changes everything. The realization that you are safe to be yourself. This is something you don't take lightly. Because you know what it feels like to hide. To filter your thoughts, to hold back your truth. But here, you don't feel that pressure. You don't feel like you have to perform or pretend. You can just be. And that feeling of safety, it's one of the rarest things you'll ever experience. The way this connection expands your vision. You start seeing life differently. Not just through your own perspective, but through a shared awareness. New ideas, new insights, new ways of understanding things. And it doesn't limit you. It expands you. Because the right connection doesn't box you in. It opens you up to more. The inner shift you can't put into words. There's something happening inside you that's hard to explain. A quiet transformation, a subtle evolution. You're not the same person you were before this entered your life. Your thoughts feel different. Your energy feels different. Even the way you move through the world feels different. And you can't fully describe it. But you know it's real. The way you start trusting the process. You stop needing to know every outcome. You stop trying to predict where this will lead. Instead, you trust the process. You trust the timing, You trust that whatever unfolds will align with your growth. And that trust, it brings a kind of peace you've never known before. The connection that compete with your solitude. You still value your alone time. You still need space to reflect, to recharge, to reconnect with yourself. And this connection understands that. It doesn't take it personally. It doesn't create tension. It respects your solitude while still being present in your life. And that balance, it allows both your independence and your connection to coexist. The moment you realize you're not afraid anymore, not completely fearless, but different. The fear that once controlled your decisions no longer has that power. You're not running, you're not hiding. You're facing what's in front of you with awareness, with strength, with a sense of calm you didn't have before. And that moment, it shows you just how much you've grown. The way this connection feels like alignment, not luck. You don't see this as coincidence anymore. You see it as alignment, as something that came into your life because you became ready for it, because you did the work, because you faced your challenges, because you chose growth even when it was difficult. And now, you're experiencing the result of that choice, not as a reward, but as a reflection of who you've become.